So after Saigon, we decided to travel around for a little bit, and that's when we went to Dalat. Now, Dalat was an absolutely gorgeous place, and definitely one of my favorite places that we went to. Not my favorite, we'll get to that place pretty soon. Right across the street from us was this game cafe, and it was actually really cool. I went in there once, and there was a bunch of PlayStations just lined across the walls. I was gonna go in there and pay to play, but they were PlayStations. I've got standards. No, I'm just kidding. We just had so much to do, there just wasn't enough time. Now, one thing you'll notice about the buildings is a lot of them in these pictures seem like they're currently being built, and that was the case. Vietnam is a developing country, and you'll see these buildings and you stay in a place for like 3 weeks, work their way up. They don't have the laws and regulations that we do, so it doesn't take them as long to make their buildings. But they do a really good job, they just kind of skimp on insulation. So we get up and go get ourselves some coffee, and I thought this menu was really cool, so I took a picture. I've never seen one made of wood before. Speaking of pictures, Tinder profile picture number 3! Yeah, I'm really good at taking bad pictures. So lunchtime rolls around, and it is my first time trying frog legs. I actually kind of liked them. I thought they were pretty good. So let's talk about some of the people I was with. We have Jake, Asia, and Sydney. Now, Jake and Asia, they lived together in Vietnam for 2 years, and they came back for almost a year, and then asked if I wanted to go to Vietnam with them, which was great. Cindy, on the other hand, I had no connection to. I didn't know her. She works with Jake and Asia, so I didn't really know what to expect. The first few weeks there, it wasn't really going very well for Cindy. She was running into a lot of problems, and it didn't seem that she was really getting a hold of Vietnam very well. It wasn't until we got to Dalat, though, that things really shifted. We're on one of the sleeper buses, and we get all the way to Dalat. Now, on these sleeper buses, you have to take off your shoes. When you get off the bus, you go to put your shoes back on. And she was standing kind of at the entrance of the bus trying to put her shoes back on, and people were pushing her out of the way. That's just kind of how it is there. Well, this bothers her, and we're walking down the road, and she's saying things like, "I'm never taking my shoes off ever again on those stupid buses. That was dumb. That shouldn't have happened." And I said, "Yeah, screw the culture." She stopped for a minute. She was like, "Well, no, wait, not screw the culture, just..." After that point, she seemed to really ease up, and she was a lot of fun to hang out with. I actually don't blame her for having a negative attitude. After hanging out with her for as long as I did, I ended up finding out that bad stuff just kinda happens to her, and it's really not her fault. She's got a pretty good personality for all the crap she deals with, and she became a pretty good friend. So we're hanging out, and we end up coming to this mall. This is an entrance over here. This is an entrance over here. And in these entrances, there are coffee shops, there are bars, there are little restaurants. But then underneath is the mall. Right underground from where we were standing earlier, there's just an entire mall downstairs. You can pay a couple bucks to get your toes sucked by these little fishes here. You can go shopping with all your friends. You can buy some speakers that are too good. Oh my god. We came to this part of the mall that had all these really amazing pictures in them, and at first I didn't understand what exactly they were. It wasn't until I looked at the small pictures next to them, you realize you're supposed to stand next to them and take a picture, and it's supposed to look like you're in the image itself, which is kind of cool, and I actually had Jake stand next to a couple of them to get a good idea of what they would look like. We had a lot of fun out in Dalat. Oh, I love this. No smoking, no e-cigarettes, no marijuana. Marijuana's illegal over there. They'd be like putting a sign up that says don't stab anybody. Okay. Now this is where we got into the night market. Now the night market is cool. Now, there are 2 ways to shop in Vietnam. You go to a regular store or an outlet or a mall and you buy set priced items at that set price market. Or you go to a pop-up market or a night market or just one of these regular on-the-street shops, and you get to decide the price based on how well you can haggle. Now, at first, I didn't do too well haggling, but once I got the hang of it, I actually ended up having a lot of fun, and I have a few stories for you guys, and we'll get to those once we make it that far. The stuff they sold was really kind of amazing too. It seemed all really high quality, and I wanted one of everything. It was so cheap, I guess I could have. Yeah, I saw you looking at it. You know you wanted to see a bigger picture. Come on. The food there was fantastic, and they cook it right in front of you. You got prawns, you got squid and octopus, you got chicken feet, which I never tried. You got buns, banh mi, which excellent meal. And of course, all your seafood. The place was poppin'. They even had some creepy cartoon characters that were asking way too much to take pictures with them. Yeah, see this guy? Not enthused. You can buy anything in these night markets. Flowers, cactus, more flowers, watches, foods. This guy here was selling a bunch of dried fruit, which ended up being really great because I got to take a fantastic picture with those. I'm very proud of that one. That's my favorite picture. What I really liked was the people who sold their talents. This guy in here would draw all these things on these thin pieces of wood, and it wasn't just things that he had come to his mind. If you had a picture that you wanted him to draw, he would do it. And the only reason I didn't have him do one for me was because he had just started on the one he was working on, and it probably was gonna take some time. Now the next day we wake up and it's time to go out into the wilderness. Now the cool thing about Dalat is it feels very much like Oregon, just prettier flowers. They had mountains, they had trees, they had the giant poofy clouds. Honestly, if someone had told me that I was in a forest in Oregon, I probably would have believed them. Down here, they had this amazing waterfall. Apparently, people come from all around to see this thing. The cool thing about their waterfalls, though they do look similar to the ones here in Oregon, is they mix a lot of art in with nature, and I really appreciate that they do that. Now, this guy was really cool. I think he was some sort of Buddhist, but he never showed his face, and I'm not sure how long he's been doing that, but when I went up and asked him if I could take some pictures of him, he said no pictures. And I guess I should have asked before I had taken some, but who cares, those ones are mine. Now, if you're interested in the insect life, I'll tell you it's very much the same as America, but the bugs are a little bit bigger over there. I'll show you some spiders pretty soon, but I was so enamored with all the flowers and foliage and the rock formations and everything, these vines, everything just was so beautiful over there. That's when I turned and I saw my buddy doing this. Oh, Jake. What are you doing? So we continued down and we got to another waterfall that overlooked the entire rest of the river. It was absolutely gorgeous and I felt like I was in the movie Mighty Joe Young. This is when we started taking pictures of ourselves, and for the most part, they're pretty good. Hey Barry, did you see that guy in that suit? Yeah, I'm like really high right now, I don't know what to tell you. What even happened here? Alright, now I didn't have a very good lens for capturing these kinds of really close-up images, so I had to really get close to these spiders, which was more than fine. They were actually a lot smaller than they look. It was really cool though, a lot of the patterns on them, some of them were really vibrant and really pretty, which is not something you typically hear when you talk about spiders. Now, if you're not a spider person, that's okay, because we also ran into this absolutely gorgeous butterfly. The poor little guy wasn't moving around very much, and he wasn't even trying to fly away, so we picked him up and put him on this bush, and hopefully he did alright after that. Now this was fun. Now this is called a luge, and they're actually a lot of fun. So you have a couple handles right here that are brakes when they're all the way up. You push them all the way down, and you go as fast as gravity will take you. Really no reason to have those things pulled up, and they're a lot of fun. So we get off the roller coaster and we're packing up and I'm taking some pictures of some pretty flowers. It was How did that get in there? Either way, our next destination was Happy Hill, which was a love garden. Now this is one thing about Dalat. Dalat has a ton of love parks and they're absolutely beautiful and vastly different from each other. For example, this one had a ton of huts, beautiful flowers, amazing archways. I love this little heart-shaped island, and this boat would take you over to this place where you could go ride some elephants, they would drench you with water. It would have been a really good time, but it was just a little too late for that. The flowers were beautiful, and though some of the stuff was fake, it really did set the scene for a romantic time. I totally understand why people visit Dalat. This dog is pretty cute. Every time I took a picture of him, he got sadder and sadder. There came a point where I took a picture and he put his head down. I felt kind of bad. The next day we went to a bigger love park, which was absolutely beautiful. Jake and Asia had me take a picture in front of this statue where the hands are putting the rings on each other. A bunch of romantic bullcrap. Now, peacocks are one thing you're going to see a lot in Vietnam. The peacock is a symbol of love and also a symbol of femininity. So when you go to these kinds of parks, you're going to see them a lot. And again, I love how much they mix their statues with nature. It just makes the entire thing that much more beautiful. They do a lot of really good work on these too. They got these giant teacups, you got your little Snoopy dogs, you got your heart archways, your love toilet. It was really nice. Now, as I'm walking around, one thing I start to notice is everyone else had left. Jake and Asia had gone their own way, Cindy had gone her own way. I'm walking through this love park all alone. No, it was more than fine. I was actually very happy to be on my own. It was one of the first times that I had been since being in Vietnam, so it felt kind of cool. And I got to take a lot of really good pictures. Now, this was one of my favorite areas. I think these are called hanging dragons, or something along that line. At least that's what someone had told me when I was there. Absolutely beautiful. It was one of my favorite parts of this park. I just loved being under all of these. The flowers after this point were absolutely gorgeous, and it stayed that way for minutes as you were just walking through this park. Now, this tree was really cool as well. You give a girl a pink ribbon, you give a guy a red ribbon, they tie them together, and they tie it around the tree, and it's supposed to symbolize that they'll be together forever. It's a bunch of BS, but it's kind of cute. Speaking of cute, another love toilet. Now, this is kind of cool. They got these little boats that are shaped like swans, and you're supposed to get in them and pedal out into the water, and you're supposed to be all romantic. I'll tell you why it's not romantic in a little bit, but this was pretty cool. Some guy put a little hat on his swan. So we'd all decided that we wanted to take a swan trip. So I jumped in with Cindy, and Jake and Asia had one to themselves. Which was a little weird since I didn't really know Cindy all that well, but it was a really good time. We ended up going to this little cove because I wanted to take a picture of these ferns. And once we were in there, we ended up seeing these beautiful little birds. It was really hard to get some of these shots. My lens doesn't zoom out very much, so you have to be kind of close up. We kind of had to let the swan drag us over to the shore and try to be as quiet as possible so I could get those images. Over here was a cute little coffee shop. There was also a cute little coffee cup, and I wanted to go take a look, but we ended up not having time. Now, at this point, they do tours. This is just one part of this little park, and it spans quite a bit of distance. Cindy and I started walking up to the rest of the park when we noticed Jake and Asia on a little bus, and they had just taken off. They said that we were going to miss out if we didn't hurry up, but honestly, I feel like they were the ones who missed out. The park had a lot to offer, and even just staying around like we did, we still didn't get to see everything. You had this cool little worker formation thing, you had these elephants, you had this place you could murder your wife. It's really a lovely place. Now, this is one of my favorite things that I had seen in Vietnam. This is the Delaet Dragon. This thing is made of 24 karat gold, a buttload of diamonds, and it was amazing to look at. Now, the dragon in Vietnam symbolizes masculinity, whereas the peacock over here, which you see again, symbolizes again femininity. It was really cool to see, and we had actually just gotten up there at the time that they were closing, so it was really cool that they let me take some pictures. Now, the camera was still a little screwed up from the wedding, so I don't feel like these pictures were the best, but I at least did get to see them, and that made me very happy. Now, this is the very top of this love park. There's a lot of flowers up here, and a lot of these bonsai trees as well. One thing they did have, though, was a little pond full of koi. Now, the coolest part about this is if you paid a little bit of money, you could feed these koi fish. And right after you fed them, the koi fish would follow you up and down this little bridge. So I get distracted. I'm taking pictures of all the flowers, I'm taking pictures of the sunset, I'm just having a really good time, and I notice Jake, Asia, and Cindy have all gotten back on a bus and are headed back down, and I was like, well, great. Now I'm stuck here alone, and I gotta walk back down again. And at first I was a little bummed out. But then I stumbled upon this. In this park were a ton of national landmarks and monuments that have been built all over the world. I got to hang out in Stonehenge for a little bit. I got to see this Chinese pond house thing. Ancient Rome, the Statue of Liberty in a forest, which was really weird to see. The monuments were really beautiful, and it was actually really cool. I felt like I was traveling around the world just in this one little park. There's nothing more beautiful than being by yourself and discovering something that really makes you feel something that really deep inside turns you into a total bitch tram. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Now, this was the Dalat night market again, and I got some pretty cool stuff over there. I got this leather jacket for about 23 bucks. I got this touch lighter that they stole from me at the airport on my way back. One really funny thing that you'll see all the time, this chick. You'll be walking down the road and out of the corner of your eye, you'll see someone doing this. and then you'll look up, and then you'll double take because it's a mannequin. Their mannequins move out there, man. Now that night we went to a restaurant. We were missing America, so we decided to go get some Western food. I like the theme of this place. It was very Western. It was also very Christmassy too. The bathrooms had a picture of a cowboy, cowgirl. They got the steam and grill over here. I was ready for some traditional American egg rolls. We each got a hot plate and got ourselves some chicken, some beef. We got these mashed potato balls, a tractor. Didn't get to keep the tractor. Next, we were off to find some cat crap coffee, which I'm pretty sure you may have heard about, but I'll explain soon. On our way, we found this car. This car was really cool because all these little fractally, sparkly, shattery, metallic, the little bubbles down there, those weren't there if you didn't have light on this car. The chameleon paint on this car must have cost $1.5 billion, quadrillion dollars, but it was a gorgeous car. We ended up finding the cat crap coffee, and it was in this tiny little shack. This menu was made of foam. Now, if you don't know what cat crap coffee is, there's this bean that when digested through a cat or a weasel is refined somehow in their stomach. What then happens is the farmers who refine this bean then gather it up, they wash it, they grind it, and they make it into coffee. Some of the most expensive coffee I've ever had, and it tastes like dirt. I don't recommend it, but I'm really glad I tried it. Now this leads us to one of our last days in Dalat. We went and visited this temple, and this temple was very beautiful. The whole temple was overlooked by this giant Buddha up here, and the artwork, I can't believe it's all handcrafted. Hey, little kid, you get your finger out of my belly button, please? I was astounded by how small this temple was, and yet how much there was to see. They had these plates out and little snacks and stuff, and believe it or not, it wasn't for you. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to pick one up and throw them to the pigeons. And it called for some really good pictures that I actually didn't get to take. This is one of the temples. I ended up finding a back room, and it took me to this outer part where the monks live. Speaking of monks, you want to see one badass monk welding? Yeah, that's right. Now I came out of this little alley, and I had the temple to my right here, and to my left is where the monks live. It's a really humble little place, especially since there are like 6 or 7 of them in there. Now this part was pretty cool. I stumbled upon this monk who started burning money, and I didn't exactly know why. He tried to tell me, but his English wasn't very good, but what I got from it was when someone passes away, you burn money as a sign of respect, and it helps them into the afterlife, something like that. I wish I knew a little more, but everything I've researched, I haven't really come up with much. Overlooking the city as a monk would probably be really pretty as well. They kind of have the right idea. Being out with each other, if they ever need anything, they can rely on each other. They're very spiritually minded. The self is the most important thing. They got a view like this they can look at all the time. I mean, really, what else can you ask for? I don't know, maybe a computer? Some glasses? Maybe some welding gloves? Cindy and I started walking down this road, and it's amazing how much culture there is just everywhere. The murals on the side of the road, the plants up in the houses. This little dog was adorable. The laundry, just hanging out. Dalat was one of my favorite places, and I was sad to have to say goodbye. Before we left, though, Cindy and I found ourselves a bar, and I'm sitting in there taking pictures of all the neon lights that I had seen. Well, this guy walks up with his stern face, and he goes, "Hey, no pictures." Tats all down his arm. I was like, okay, what the hell? This wasn't a problem before. And I go sit down. Now, I wasn't upset. I was just kind of like confused. When I look over a couple booths down, and I see this group of people with tattoos all over the place. And apparently, that means they're mafia. Yeah, I think I'm just going to respect what the mafia tells me to do. I don't need to get whacked in Vietnam. After Dalat, we ran into a bit of a problem. See, we're trying to catch a bus up north to Moyne, but unfortunately, all the buses were driving back south to Saigon, and we weren't ready to stop traveling at that point. So we got ourselves a taxi, went up to Moyne, and that's where a lot of the fun stories really begin. However, we've run out of time in this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.